hi. I realized that I never gave an introduction to what these stories are, so I thought I'd do that. This is the DDBS primer. This is something that I wrote back in 2016 or 2017, something like that. And back in that time, I was writing a blog about like traps and how you can fall into different societal traps, right? And you don't recognize them as being traps, so that's why you fall into these traps, right? So I wanted to write these stories as a way to help you gain the experience to identify trap. So I'm just going to read the intro, and the about will become clear what the stories are about. So hello, welcome to DDBS. This is a great place to start. Below you will find a collection of stories that I've gathered and generalized for your enjoyment. You may recognize some of the stories. I've done my best to make them entertaining so you don't bore of reading them again. All the stories that you will hear here are based on a true story. They are stories that I've heard people either tell me directly or from a book or through the grapevine somewhere or just general news. So everything is based on something true, it's based on reality. Fact is stranger than fiction. I can only write a story about something that has truly happened. So sometimes when I'm writing about a trap, I'll refer back to these stories as a way to explain why. Let me explain. Sometimes the best way to understand why something is the way it is to have experienced something personally. You know that experience is one of the greatest teachers there is. Stories help with that. Listening to a story is the most powerful method of activating our brains and understanding cause and effect. When you hear a story, listening to a story turns the story into your own idea and experience in a way, right? When you're immersed in the story, it's almost as like you're experiencing it, like you are the character. And you go and do these things, right? I think that's why Dungeons and Dragons is so popular and such an amazing game, right? As in, instead of attempting to explain why something, that's what a lot of people do. They try to explain how things work and why they work. They try to tell you how they work. These stories show you how they work because they don't tell you what's happening. I mean, the story is like the story, this happens and that happens, but I'm not telling you like this is why it's happening. You have to fill in the blanks there. I'm showing you what happens. Okay. So instead of attempting to explain why something, I'll just say, remember the story about the guy who did the right thing? Or maybe I should say, remember the time when you tried to do the right thing. And that way it'll remind you. So enjoy. The first set of stories is about people and their jobs. We've already read 2 stories from this. Well, you haven't yet, but this is where the video is in the sequence. Never mind, just ignore me. People and their jobs. So how would you answer these questions? What is your job? Why do you have your job? What does it provide for you? What would happen if you got laid off tomorrow? And would you want that to happen? Now, think about the way that you answered these questions, right? Okay. What is your job to you? Why do you have it? What does it provide? What would happen if you got laid off? And would you want that to happen? Now think about everybody else that you know, basically everybody else that you know and don't know, right? Everybody that you see every day. How many of them do you think would answer mostly in the same way? Most people would probably say, exactly the same thing. Okay, most people would probably say that, whether I like my job or not, I need it. I need it to get money to pay my bills. If I lost my job, I'd try to find another job. I'd try to find another source of income. And if I live in a socialism era, I can go and apply for welfare and not have to work. I still have to replace my income in some way. And whether I make $20,000 or $1 million, I need to get money to pay for things. It's just a basic fact of society that we live in. We need the income from our jobs to cover our life expenses. That's true. That's just how it is. So the first set of stories are the job stories. We got 4 stories in the job stories. The first story is moving on up. It's a good story. It's a real great way to kick off the stories. So you're going to like that story. Second story is do the right thing. which is like a sequel to Moving On Up. Ooh, the stories are interrelated. Bet you didn't think they would be related. Ooh. You Ain't Really Family. I think I haven't read this one yet. I haven't clicked on this button yet. I think it is also a sequel to Do the Right Thing. So Moving On Up followed by Do the Right Thing, followed by You Ain't Really Family. It's a threequel trilogy. And then the final job stories is The Little Salesman That Could. Okay? So in the description down there, you're going to find a link to the first story. Enjoy the first story.